I want you to picture a bulldozer. You know, a classic, massive yellow Caterpillar D11.
Oh, yeah.
Weighs over 100 tons. It's loud, it smells like diesel, and its whole job is just to push dirt from point A to point B. It's the ultimate symbol of the old economy, just hard iron.
Absolutely. It's the very definition of industrial might.
Exactly. So here is the question that sent me down the rabbit hole for this deep dive. How does a company that's built on that massive yellow iron make money when nobody is buying new bulldozers?
And that is the multi-billion-dollar question. And frankly, for a long time in the heavy equipment industry, the answer was just they don't.
Right.
Or, they didn't make nearly enough. When equipment sales stopped, the revenue just dried up.
But today's deep dive is going to completely flip that image on its head.
Right here.
We're looking at a stack of reports covering what might be one of the most significant industrial pivots of the last 15 years.
Yeah, this isn't just some small R&D project. This is a fundamental restructuring of how a Fortune 100 giant actually operates. We're looking specifically at the period between, say, 2010 and 2025.
Okay.
And this is the story of how Caterpillar decided it wasn't enough to just sell the best iron. They had to become a digitally enabled service provider. They started calling it the age of smart iron.
And just to set the stakes here, because the numbers are they're actually wild, in 2019, Caterpillar set this bold goal. They wanted to double their services revenue. They started at a baseline of $14 billion in 2016, and they said, we're going to hit $28 billion by 2026.
Which is just a staggering number. I mean, think about that. $28 billion in services. That's bigger than the total revenue of a lot of Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
And according to the reports we have, by 2024, they were already sitting at $24 billion.
Wow.
That's nearly 40% of their total sales coming just from services.
But wait, we have to clarify something right up front, because I found this distinction really important. When they say services revenue, they're not just talking about money going into Caterpillar Corporate's bank account, are they?
No.
This isn't like, Apple selling an iCloud subscription directly to me.
No, exactly. That's the crucial nuance here. When Caterpillar talks about services revenue, they're capturing the value generated by both Caterpillar and its independent dealer network.
The whole ecosystem.
The whole ecosystem, its parts, its labor, its software subscriptions. It's basically everything that happens after the machine is sold.
So the mission for this deep dive is to trace how they actually did it. Because it sounds great on a PowerPoint slide, but to execute it, that meant retrofitting millions of machines with sensors, building a cloud infrastructure from scratch, and maybe the hardest part of all, convincing 150 independent dealers to completely change the way they do business.
It was a massive undertaking. So let's dive in.
Okay, let's unpack the why first. Why pivot so hard? I mean, Caterpillar sells billions of dollars of equipment. They dominate the market. Why wasn't that enough?
It all comes down to one word that keeps industrial CFOs up at night: cyclicality.
Cyclicality.
The heavy equipment market is just notoriously cyclical. It is feast or famine.
How bad are we talking?
Well, when the economy is booming, everyone's buying excavators. Construction's up, mining's up.
Sure.
But when the economy dips, capital spending is the very first thing to get cut. Equipment sales just plummet, and you're left with these massive factories and all this overhead.
So you need a buffer.
Yeah.
Some kind of cushion.
Precisely. And here's the insight. Machines that are already out in the field still need to run. They still need filters, they need oil, they still break down. Services offer stability, and they offer higher margins. So the strategy shifted. It became about joining equipment and digital capabilities to deliver outcomes. They weren't just selling a truck anymore, they were selling uptime. They were selling productivity.
But you can't sell uptime if you don't know what the machine is actually doing. And this is where the tech comes in. This is the foundation of everything else we're going to talk about. The connected asset.
Right. If you go back to, say, pre-2010, getting data off a tractor was hard. It was manual. A guy had to go out with a laptop and physically plug it in.
Yeah.
But Caterpillar spent the last decade building what they call the Industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT.
And the scale of this is just huge. The sources mentioned they went from, struggling to get data to having somewhere between 1.2 and 1.5 million connected assets by the early 2020s.
And what that looks like in practice is a little device called Product Link. It's hardware on the machine that sends out GPS data, fuel burn rates, idle time, fault codes, all via satellite or cellular networks.
Done.
It turned every single yellow machine into a data node.
Okay, so they have the data. Now let's talk about the coolest application of this, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
We have to talk about mining, because while I love a good skid steer, the mining tech is It's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It is absolutely the most dramatic example of this transformation, for sure. This all falls under Caterpillar's resource industries segment, and mining is the perfect petri dish for this, right? It's a controlled environment, it's repetitive, and it's dangerous.
The sources all point to one specific milestone: 2013, the launch of the commercial autonomous haulage system in Western Australia.
That was a pivotal moment. They deployed these fleets of CAT 793F mining trucks. Now, just so you can visualize this, these are massive house-sized vehicles.
Yes.
They carry 240 tons of rock, and they were operating with no drivers.
No drivers at all, just 240-ton robots driving around a mine.
Controlled by a system called CAT MineStar. And it's probably worth breaking that down because MineStar isn't just one thing, it's a suite.
Okay.
You have fleet, which is sort of like air traffic control for the trucks, telling them where to go to maximize efficiency. You have terrain, which gives precision guidance for drilling so they hit the ore body exactly right. And detect, which is all about safety and collision avoidance.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me, the results. Because cool tech is great, but mining companies are absolutely ruthless about the bottom line. This wasn't just cool tech, it made money.
The so what is impressive.
Right.
The mines using this system reported double-digit productivity boosts. We're talking a 20% increase in material hauled.
20%. Yeah.
Because robots don't take lunch breaks, they don't have shift changes, they drive the exact optimal speed every single time.
And what about safety?
Even more important, safety. With autonomous trucks running 24/7, they recorded 0 injury incidents. When you take the human out of the cab in a dangerous environment, you just remove the risk of injury.
That is incredible. But beyond the robots, there's this concept of predictive maintenance that really started to shine in mining. Can you walk us through that example with the engine cooling?
Yeah, this is the perfect example of data turning into money. So imagine a massive mining truck hauling ore up a steep grade. The sensors on that truck are constantly monitoring the engine. The system, using AI and historical data, might detect a really subtle trend.
Something a human driver wouldn't even notice.
Right. Maybe the coolant temperature and pressure are deviating just slightly from the norm. It might still be in the green zone on a gauge.
Okay.
But the algorithm sees it. It sees the pattern. And it predicts that this trend means a specific cooling system failure is likely in the near future. So instead of the truck blowing its engine in the middle of a haul road, which blocks traffic, stops production, and needs a massive tow truck, the dealer gets an alert.
And they can schedule the fix when the truck is already parked for a shift change or for fueling.
Right. They replace the failing part before it fails. Catastrophic breakdown avoided. That is the absolute definition of selling uptime. You're not fixing a broken machine, you're making sure it never breaks in the first place.
Okay, so that's mining. And mining has these huge budgets. They can afford the space-age stuff. But what about the construction side? The guy running a small contracting business with, say, 3 machines, he's not building a command center.
And that was the challenge for their construction industries segment. They had to. Or they had to democratize this technology. They couldn't just offer million-dollar custom solutions. They needed something that could scale.
The sources talk about the evolution of their offerings here. They started with something called EM Solutions back in 2014.
Right, Equipment Management Solutions. And it was a tiered program, level 1 through 5. Level 1 might just be, here's a report on your fleet's location.
Basic.
Very basic. And level 5 was the dealer manages everything for you. It gave customers a choice, but frankly, it was a little complex to sell.
So by the late 2010s, that evolved into Customer Value Agreements, or CVAs. And this seems like it became the standard way to buy a machine.
It did. By the mid-2020s, something like 2/3 of new machines were being sold with a CVA.
Wow.
Think of it like bundling. You buy the excavator, but it comes wrapped in a service contract that covers your maintenance parts, your inspections, your warranty. It locks the customer into the Caterpillar ecosystem, sure, but it also guarantees the machine is taken care of.
It's the peace of mind package.
Exactly. And to make it all easier, they really pushed digital convenience. We saw the launch of PartsCat.com in 2016, and then came the apps.
The apps were a total game changer for the smaller operators. I love the detail about Cat Central, which launched in 2023. It says a contractor can just walk up to their bulldozer, scan a QR code on the side of it, and boom, it pulls up the parts diagram on their phone.
It just removes all the friction. In the past, that contractor had to drive to the dealer, look through a massive paper book, maybe order the wrong part.
A total headache.
Now it's instant. They scan the code, they see the exact filter they need, and they order it right there. Or they can contact support.
It's the Amazon experience for heavy equipment.
It is. And we also have to mention CAT Command in construction. We talked about autonomous mining trucks, but Command brings remote control to standard construction machines.
Yes. Remote control bulldozers.
Commercialized around 2017. And this lets operators control dozers or excavators from a virtual cab that could be miles away or just from a console on their chest for line-of-sight control.
Why would a regular construction site need that?
Think about the dangerous jobs. Clearing a landslide, working on a really steep slope, handling demolition in a toxic environment. It's perfect for situations where you really don't want a human body bouncing around inside the cab.
So we've got mining robots, we have QR codes for construction, but there's a third pillar here that I think is arguably the most critical when it comes to life or death reliability.
Energy and transportation.
Right.
Yeah, this is the segment that covers generators for hospitals and data centers and engines for massive cargo ships. The stakes here are just different. If a bulldozer breaks, you lose a day of work. If a hospital generator breaks during a storm, it's a disaster.
So how do they apply this digital transformation there?
They use tools like the CAT Remote Asset Monitor, or RAM, and the Insight platform for their solar turbines. But the real magic, if you want to call it that, is remote flash.
Remote flash. This came out around 2020, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So think about how your smartphone updates its operating system while you sleep. You wake up, and it has new features. Caterpillar brought that exact concept to industrial engines.
No way.
Yeah. They can update the engine's software over the air.
So a hospital generator can get a firmware update that improves its performance without a technician ever having to drive out and plug in a laptop.
Exactly. It saves time, it keeps the machine optimized, and it keeps the software secure. And in the marine world, they acquired a company to form what's called CAT Marine Asset Intelligence.
That's the predictive maintenance for ships.
Yes, they can monitor a ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The system might send an alert that says, hey, the coolant pump on engine 2 is likely to fail in 50 hours.
Which gives them just enough time to get to the next port.
And have the part waiting on the dock. Instead of breaking down at sea, which is incredibly dangerous and expensive, the maintenance happens at port. It shifts the entire model from being reactive to proactive.
Okay, this all sounds great, the tech works, but here's the part of the story where I feel like it all could have fallen apart.
The people.
The people. Specifically, the dealers.
This is the unique challenge of Caterpillar's business model. Unlike, say, a Tesla, which owns its service centers, Caterpillar sells through over 150 independent dealers.
These are separate companies.
Right. Some have been around for generations. You can't just send a memo from HQ and say, hey, everyone, guess what? We're a digital company now.
Exactly. How do you get 150 different companies on the same digital page? If I'm a dealer who's been successful for 50 years doing it the old way, why would I change?
That was the hurdle, and the solution was data integration, but it took time. They built the Helios platform by 2022. This was the cloud backbone. It unified data from the products, from the dealers, and from the customers. I mean, we are talking about processing over 50 billion data points a month.
50 billion? That's a staggering amount of data.
And they use that data to create prioritized service events, or PSEs. And this is the bridge between the tech and the dealer. Basically, Caterpillar's algorithms crunch the numbers and tell the dealer, hey, call customer X. Their battery voltage is low.
So the dealer isn't just sitting by the phone waiting for a customer to call and say, my machine won't start.
Yeah.
The dealer is calling the customer saying, your machine is about to not start. Let's fix it now.
It fundamentally changed the role of the dealer. They had to evolve from being just mechanics to being data analysts. Dealerships started establishing condition monitoring centers, literally rooms full of screens watching the health of thousands of machines in real time.
It sounds like NASA mission control for dirt.
It basically is. And it also changed the logistics, right? We talked about ordering parts on the app.
Right. When I order on the app, who actually fulfills it?
The dealer. When a customer orders a part on the CAT Central app, it feels like a seamless Amazon experience. But on the back end, it's the local dealer fulfilling that inventory from their warehouse. It required this perfect digital handshake between CAT software and the dealer's warehouse system. If that fails, the whole thing falls apart.
So they built the tech, they brought the dealers along, but then the world threw a massive curveball. 2020, the pandemic.
The ultimate stress test.
How did this big digital pivot hold up when the world just shut down?
It was a lifesaver, both literally and financially. With all the travel restrictions, technicians couldn't just visit sites anymore. So tools like remote troubleshoot, where a technician can diagnose a problem through the telematics data, they became essential.
It went from a nice-to-have feature to a must-have.
Absolutely. And financially, even though new equipment sales dropped because of all the economic uncertainty, that services revenue we talked about, it stayed stable. The digital infrastructure let them keep supporting customers and keep billing for services even when they couldn't sell new iron. It proved the whole thesis that services dampen that cyclicality.
And coming out of that, we move into what the sources call the AI-first era. So 2024, 2025, what's happening now?
Now they're layering generative AI on top of all that data they've collected. They have recommendation engines that can suggest a full repair plan to a technician. So even a less experienced mechanic has the collective knowledge of Caterpillar's entire engineering team right there on their tablet.
That's huge for the skills gap everyone talks about.
Huge. And there's also a big sustainability angle here, too. You mentioned the Early Learner Program.
Yes, launched in 2021. This is for the battery electric mining trucks. They're partnering with big miners like Rio Tinto to develop these huge electric trucks.
And this is key electric trucks require a whole new kind of service and data monitoring. You have to watch battery health, charging cycles, grid integration. So the push for sustainability and the push for services go hand in hand. You can't run a green fleet without a digital backbone.
And the financial scorecard. Where do they end up?
Well, as we mentioned at the start, by 2024, they hit $24 billion in service revenue. They are absolutely on track for that doubling goal. It's almost 40% of their total sales now.
It's a massive success story.
It really is. They successfully pivoted from just selling iron to selling uptime and outcomes. They built this perfect loop. The connected machines feed the data feeds the AI feeds the dealers, and the dealers keep the customer running.
It's a complete ecosystem. And that leads me to my final thought for you, the listener. We started this deep dive talking about bulldozers and dump trucks. But after hearing all of this, about the 50 billion data points, the AI recommendation engines, the autonomous fleets, I have a provocative question for you.
Let's hear it.
As Caterpillar moves toward fully autonomous sites and AI-managed fleets, does this company still look like a manufacturer to you? Or have they effectively become a software company that just happens to wrap its code in yellow hardware?
That is the question. That line is definitely blurring. When the real value is in the data, the iron just becomes the delivery mechanism.
Something to think about the next time you drive past a construction site. Take a look at that dirt. There is a whole lot of data flowing through it. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of our Digital Servitization Exchange podcast. We hope the insights sparked new ideas, challenged assumptions, and brought clarity to the evolving world of service and digital-driven business models. This podcast is grounded in extensive research across various fields, drawing on years of academic work, case studies, and cutting-edge publications. It also shaped by hands-on experience of our collaboration partners, whose real-world challenges and successes help us to translate theory into practice. If you enjoyed the episode, consider following the podcast and sharing it with colleagues who are navigating the civilization journey. Your support helps us continuing bridging high-quality research-based and practice-proven perspectives straight to your ears. Thank you for tuning in and see you in the next episode.